Just a moment.
They said Monster Hunter doesn't belong on a Nintendo platform, not realizing there have been half a dozen Monster Hunter games released on Nintendo platforms dating back to 2009. And no, that doesn't include Rise or Stories. They said it reuses a bunch of monsters from World, even though one of the only Monster Hunter games not guilty of reusing several old monsters is the first one. They said it'll run so much better on the PC, which is true, but Capcom's PC track record includes World having a prominent bug where the game would crash immediately after launching, and the only fix for it was to dive into the code via Notepad and change a value, or use ad-remove programs to get rid of certain firewall or virus protection software, or just hope it went away after a patch because Capcom's support for PC is garbage. And there was that infamous glitch around the launch of Iceborne that would wipe save files. PC Master Race indeed. They said it won't sell on the Switch, even though there are over 77 million Switches in the wild, and Generations Ultimate, both on the 3DS and Switch, sold nearly 4 million copies combined, not counting its strongest market of Japan. And how has Rise done so far? This is why Monster Hunter World was both a great and terrible thing. Great for its gameplay and presentation innovations, which ultimately helped the series attract a wider audience. And terrible in that it attracted that sect of fans that only played World and think they know what's best for the franchise. Congratulations, you're the worst thing to happen to the series since Paul W.S. Anderson. Here's something that I'm sure will just shock and appall you. I like Monster Hunter Rise. I'm not interested in any kind of pissing contest between this and past Monster Hunter games. I like Monster Hunter Rise, even though explaining why is going to be difficult to do without talking myself in circles. Rise is a difficult game to pin down in terms of gameplay progression. Parts of it feel like the missing link between Generations Ultimate and World, while other parts of it surpass World. Some of the weapon abilities I would use a lot in World are here, like the Helmbreaker and the Foresight Slash for the longsword, but with different inputs and setups. The radial menus from World and the usual items are here. Little things were changed to the player's benefit, like how the amount potions heal is faster at first and then slows down, as opposed to World's steady climb through the whole animation, making it more viable to cut off the animation midway. Among the more significant changes, the biggest one is the implementation of wire bugs, as they affect both combat and basic movement. Levels are designed to be more vertical, and the hunter themselves is more nimble, being able to run up and across walls, in addition to using wire bugs to launch upward, hang in the sky, evade, and initiate certain attacks. You can even use wire bugs to move while carrying items for transport quests. The wire bug techniques have the feel of the techniques from Generations Ultimate, because some of them are techniques from Generations Ultimate, and by using both them and wire bug movement, it's possible to perform some really flashy attacks. Though wire bugs need time to regenerate, so you can't just mindlessly spam them all the time. Wire bug attacks can help mount monsters, which in Rise means being able to treat the monster like a puppet. If the monster is alone, you can just launch them into walls until they fall over. But if they're near another large monster, you can control their movement and attack that other monster, eventually building up a meter to cap off attacks with a finishing sequence before losing the mount. And I know what you're thinking, no! Mounted monster attacks don't damage teammates. This mechanic is more fun than I initially thought it would be, and it manages to make even monsters like Kuluyaku look badass.
Burn up!
Mounts last a fair amount of time, so it's a legitimate strategy to find other monsters on the map, initiate a mount, and then lead them toward the target monster for a fight. In addition, mounted punishers make use of the monster's abilities, so you can do stuff like make Great Baggy put your target monster to sleep and barrel bomb them in the face. On top of that, the endemic life in the area also plays a bigger role. Some will provide either temporary or permanent buffs to your attack, defense, weapon affinity, or stamina. Wild wire bugs can give you the chance to use more techniques or traverse more terrain faster. And other endemic life can be caught and deployed during battle, doing things like providing buffs or heals, inflicting blights on monsters, or rendering them vulnerable to mounts. Barring that, you could always just try throwing your infinite kunai at monsters and hope they die. I prefer to do this while riding another new addition, the Palamute. Palamutes don't have the same prowess for attacks and abilities as the traditional Palicos, but they have certain combat abilities of their own, can be ridden by hunters, and are incredibly fast. In fact, you can do a lot while riding Palamutes. Use consumable items, sharpen weapons, gather items, and speaking of, many of the longer gathering animations, like mining, have been shortened dramatically. This and other changes add up to the MO of Rise, which is to further minimize the amount of time spent not hunting monsters or otherwise completing tasks. Rank progression follows the same line of thought, as key quests are all specifically marked, and you usually don't need to complete all of them to move on. Even when hunting small monsters or doing gathering quests, the relevant target will be marked on the map, so there's no need to wander aimlessly or play with the map settings to find what you're looking for. As for things I don't like about Rise, there's the story. Hey, don't give me that look. There are lore-specific items scattered around every map. If you just play the single-player quests, you can get to the credits pretty damn fast. That's because the story has a semi-logical, if not necessarily satisfying ending for the village quests, and a continuation of it in the hub/multiplayer quests. On top of that, single-player quests only go up to 6 stars, and quest selection as a whole, particularly compared to games like Generations Ultimate, is quite limited. There's also that other type of quest I haven't mentioned at all yet, Rampage quests. Here, a collection of large monsters storms the village, and it's up to you to fend all of them off with a combination of automatic and mountable defenses, and occasionally jumping into the field and dealing with them the old-fashioned way. If you know anything about my severe bias against tower defense games, it won't surprise you at all that this is my least favorite part of the game, and it happens to be the one you need to do at multiple points. Even though I have yet to actually fail one of these quests, the automated defenses usually do not inspire confidence, and I still try to avoid these quests whenever I possibly can. That said, the Apex monsters that appear in these often drop specific parts necessary for certain weapon and armor upgrades, and given how the Rampage quests tend to appear 3 at a time with seemingly random Apex monsters as the big bad of the group, it makes going for certain equipment pieces a bit annoying. And before I could even finish this script, Capcom already addressed some of these issues with a recent update, not only adding more single-player arena and hub quests, but also making it so certain Apex monsters can be fought in straight-up hunts instead of having to go through the Rampage. That's on top of more voice, hair, and layered armor for hunters, more gestures, and of course some bug fixes and more large monsters, including longtime Elder Dragons, Toaster, and the Good Kush, as well as the addition of more story-related content. It irks me that the game shipped in such an abbreviated form, but since it looks like Capcom is going to continue supporting the game with a steady dose of content drops every month to 3 months or 4 months, they haven't actually specified yet, I'll get over it in due time. As it stands now, Monster Hunter Rise gave me what I wanted. New monsters, new areas to explore, even if some of them borrow heavily from previous games, particularly Tri, some quality of life updates, fun combat that differentiates itself from World, and...
Holy fuck, a fucking puppy! Don't you fucking look at me!